What's up, guys? Justin Morgan here, and this is week 2 of the Sheiko Advanced Medium Load program in the Sheiko app. For I don't know if I mentioned it last week or I mentioned it like really late in the video, but this is just from the app that's available on from the App Store on your phone. I have an iOS. I don't know how it comes up in the other devices, but I've found the Sheiko app to be pretty beneficial if you're using Sheiko. I think there are some free um, kind of Excel documents that are out there that goes through the various programs, but there's a lot that the app offers that I think is worth I think it's $12 for the app, and I mean for that amount of money, just go buy the app. I mean it's really easy. It puts everything together, and it goes you through. It takes you through different phases. So some of the Sheiko programs, the way that they're set up is that you kind of spend a lot of time in going through waves with a lot of volume, and the volume's meant to produce muscle growth, but in return it also produces a lot of fatigue. And as you develop that fatigue, your numbers are actually, you might have a difficult time being at the same strength level you were previously. So there's also periods of time that are meant to kind of allow you to recover, and then you end up, at those times you end up doing higher intensity lifts, lower volume, and then you're able to kind of, ideally at the end of certain parts of the program, hit heavier numbers. One of the things that I've noticed about the Sheiko programs that I find interesting is the way that he uses waves. So one week that it'll usually go 1 week, you'll have a certain set of exercises or a certain type of workout or lift, and then the next week there'll be something different. And the way that it ends up being different is the variation. So you'll end up doing something that's at a really high intensity, like I did, or it's really hard to describe, I guess. The way that I did the deadlifts that you'll see at the end of this are that it's 415 pounds. I think that's the weight I'm using at this clip right here. But you end up doing it with um, either a pause, or I was doing them with bands. So it integrates some different type of variation, or it helps you to kind of work a certain sticking point in the lift, and it also allows you to kind of recover because you're either using less weight or you're using a pretty intense weight with some type of assistance. Like you'll see I use the slingshot on bench press in a little bit, and I'm doing a weight that would be kind of difficult for me. It's like 90%, I think, and it would be difficult for me to do it for a lot of sets over and over and over again, but because I'm using the slingshot, it allows me to get some of the neurological components of training where I'm using a heavier weight, but it doesn't actually fatigue me as much as if I were actually doing 90% of my 1 rep max for a lot of sets. Now, usually Sheiko either does 2 or 3 main movements, so he's kind of famous for the squat, bench, squat, or the bench press, deadlift, followed by another bench press workout, things that come up in his programs a lot. But there's also a lot of kind of variation, or kind of accessory movements that are intended for muscle growth, and that's kind of what you see kind of going on towards the end of some of these. Some of the equipment I don't have because I don't have it at my house. And you'll see in a little bit, I keep trying to do belt squats or find different things to do belt squats with, and it's really, it's hard. The way that I've done it is difficult anyways, and the chain keeps eating into my thighs, which is painful, and towards the end I almost do the splits on one of them because the boards that I had made to stand on started slipping across the floor, so that was kind of rough. But I would describe a lot of the accessory movements, the ending things that he does, as kind of bodybuilding movements. And they are intended to produce muscle growth or bring up other muscles. And it really does a lot of comprehensive kind of lifting patterns, so that as a lifter, as you go through your career, it thinks of a long-term approach, or you have kind of a a long-term method to continue producing results further in the future. So Sheiko may not be the best program to make you the strongest that you can be right now, but I think that in general the Sheiko method is intended to make you the strongest that you would be able to be over the course of your career. So I think that's kind of some of the differences that people might see, because I see a lot of people that say they've tried Sheiko and they either got weaker, which I've actually had that experience. The first time I tried Sheiko, I really was optimistic about it, but it wasn't producing the results that I wanted, and I think that's largely because I was expecting it to do things that it really wasn't written to do. It wasn't intended to peak your strength right now. It's intended to help you to follow a long career. Which brings me to another thing that I see on the internet a lot in like Reddit and some of the other things, is that people often will talk about Sheiko and they're like, you got to get plenty of sleep and you got to eat tons of food, and those are kind of overarching things that you will need to do in order to produce muscle growth. You'll need to make sure you get plenty of sleep. You'll need to make sure you get plenty of water. You'll need, or drink lots of water. You'll need to make sure that you follow a healthy diet. But I'm actually dropping some weight right now, and I'm still finding Sheiko to be pretty beneficial. So I don't really get along with the idea that you need to kind of be eating tons of food. You need to be eating tons of food if you want to get larger and grow more muscle, but if you're just kind of, Sheiko's written to be an ongoing program. It's not written for the intent that you're going to follow it for a cycle and then start looking for another program. With the numbered programs that I think are out there, I can't remember what they are. It's like 37, 42 or something. I can't remember what they are exactly, but those are kind of programs that are integrated into the app, except that I think Sheiko's made a lot of modifications to them based on issues that he saw with American lifters that were following his programs. So I think that the app is better in that way, but those Excel spreadsheets that are out there with the programs have probably been updated in a lot of cases too, so if you are using those are probably very similar in a lot of ways. These good mornings that you're seeing here, they're actually something that I have not really done a whole lot of over the course of my years of training thus far, so it's just kind of something fun to get used to. I am learning a lot better to activate my glutes and my hamstrings, and as a result, I think that it's really improving my deadlift a lot. After each of these deadlifts that you'll see here, there's different rep ranges, so I think I'm doing 335 for sets of 3, then it goes up to 385 for sets of 2, and then finally it's 415 for sets of 1, and it seems like it goes on forever. And I think at the end of each set, I either get dizzy as I'm sitting there or as I walk away, and I just kind of have that like lightheaded feeling. I'm not sure if that was just what was going on that day, but these banded deadlift pulls are really tough for me, so hopefully since they are really tough, it results in a really big deadlift at the end of the program, which would be kind of an ideal situation. But I don't record every set. I record a few sets here and there. I try to get 1 or 2 of each of the working sets, but Sheiko usually has 4 or 5 working sets. And really, Sheiko kind of, from what I've read, views anything over 50% as a working set. So when you start, you maybe do 50% by 5, you go up to 60% by 4, 70% by 3, and then maybe you do 80% by 3 and do sets of 3 at 80% or something like that. That's probably not a hard and fast rule. I mean, that what I just said isn't an example exactly. It's just kind of a trend. And this last exercise that I have on here is my belt squat attempt. You can see this did not work out. I have a few ideas that I want to try to do. I ended up doing paused front squats instead, and then hamstring curls after that. But these boards start slipping apart. I'm starting to do the splits. So I try to get the thing off, and it falls apart even more. I'm afraid I'm going to impale my genitals on that bar that was sticking up out of the weight, so glad that that went okay, but that was kind of a scary experience. Anyway, so that's the video. You guys take it easy, and I'll talk to you next time.